What's happening, everyone? John Hendrix here for Boot Crew Media, coming at you with another episode of The Drive presented by Royal Honda. Look, we just had our eyes on the Saints again for another OTA session for Thursday. And look, again, it's just good to be back here, just be able to see the team and just kind of obviously see some things that happen. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the observations and some of the notes that I kind of had for practice. And again, it's going to be kind of a familiar routine that we'll go through all the time. But look, really what I would say first and foremost is the first thing that leaps off the page is Jarvis Landry, right? He was at practice today. I didn't see anything that he dropped today. So that's obviously a good sign. You know, he had one of the best plays of the day, really, and where he was kind of draped by the defender, kind of held, if you will. That would have definitely been a flag. But, you know, Jarvis comes out of it. He's able to make a catch. It's a short catch, but he made it one-handed. I mean, this is just what you expect from a veteran like Jarvis Landry to bring to the table for the Saints team. So really good to see that. Obviously, that's first and foremost a big storyline. Look, and again, we talked about it when we looked at the OTAs and the observations, and just kind of things to look at in this particular one, because this whole Jameis Winston stuff has gotten so overblown. But you know, look, Jameis looked crisp again. He looked sharp. He looks fine. Look, I mean, you know, we put some videos out, obviously, him going through drills. He's able to move around well. He's able to make throws. He's able to do a lot of things. So, again, this whole limp thing, it's kind of just overblown a little bit. And, again, the bottom line is if you haven't caught up from stuff from last week, especially what we've talked about, ACL's fine. MCL's fine. Meniscus is what we're just kind of basically worrying about right now. And obviously he's going to be in that brace. And he said he's going to play with that brace. So, again, Jameis looked fine. But, again, the bigger storyline is obviously Jarvis Landry in the Saints uniform doing really well. Give you some practice attendance a little bit just to show you, because last week we're missing a lot of players. Today only missing 15, which sounds like a lot. But, again, some of the guys that actually were able to return today, which are kind of big, Landon Young, first and foremost, Kentavious Street on Landon Young. He actually was lined up at right tackle. So Ryan Ramczyk was there. So first and foremost, what to take away. But Landon Young was getting a lot of the reps at starter today. And again, this is OTA, so it's not full contact. It's nothing like this. A lot of 7-on-7 drills. Practice flow was kind of just, I wouldn't say lethargic, but a lot of special teams focus. Not a ton of action, but still a lot of things worth pointing out. Then you had Kentavious Street back today. That was a big boost for the defensive line. He was one of the starters guys, basically starter guys on the defensive line, especially interior. Some of the sub rush they were doing, a 3-man front. Street was the guy in the middle. So really something to see and keep an eye on. Andres Pete was back. Again, you know, he was back there to his left tackle spot. That's a good news and good sign for the Saints. Obviously, that you want to keep him in there. Jarvis Landry, as we mentioned, is obviously a big one. He was here, and you know, he wanted to be here last week, but, you know, had some previous engagements. So, again, another one of those veterans that was going to make it a point to be here. And, again, it's important for these guys to get every rep they can. And then, lastly, Adam Troutman was back here at practice. So, again, it was a lot of different things. Again, mostly a special teams type setting today where they worked on a little bit of things. But, again, you look at kind of the ways and the ebbs and flows of it. You know, some guys that stood out to me, first and foremost, besides Landry, was Bryce Thompson. I mean, this was a guy last year who was doing some pretty good things on special team. He was converted to a safety from a quarterback spot. And, look, he was doing some pretty good things, kind of like Andrew Dow was last year in camp. Got hurt in the final preseason game. Unfortunately, you know, that kind of stuff happens. But, look, I thought he looked crisp today, made some good plays in special teams. He actually had some good pass breakups. He had some real good coverage on some of them and won an interception too. So that was obviously a big thing for him. I think for me, the play of the day, I know Jarvis has got a lot of attention, but JT Gray, look, he was in there. And what we got to remember before I even get into there is, you know, 11-on-11 work. The way they do that is Jameis got bulk of the reps. So, again, this is not a quarterback controversy type situation like, you know, last year where you had Jameis split half the reps, Taysom split half the reps, and then you flip-flop the starters and all this other craziness. I mean, this is Jameis's team. This is how it's going to run. This is how it's going to be, right? So, but he took 8 reps in 11-on-11s. Andy Dalton and Ian Book had 2 apiece. But when it came to the kind of the sessions later on, you know, 7-on-7, that's really where Winston had, but more of that 11-on-11 work, because I meant to say the 7-on-7, but 11-on-11 is more where you had Andy Dalton and Ian Book work a little bit out there. But, you know, JT Gray made an outstanding play. You had Juwan Johnson running down this deep sideline. Ian Book threw a pretty good ball for him, but JT Gray came up, batted the ball, with one hand and actually tipped it up enough to where he was able to recover and make an interception from that. So that for me was really good play. I mean, I talked to him, I kind of joked with him after practice in the locker room, just said, "Hey man, that was just some crazy play." And he's like, "Yeah, I just wonder if I got if I get credit for a pass breakup and an interception on that one." So Gray's always a fun guy to be around, but you look at not having guys like Tyrann Mathieu today, that gives JT Gray more time, and having Dennis Allen talk after practice really focused in on, guys like Devin Ezigbo, who was asked, they asked him after practice, kind of like, hey, is this kind of more of a role he could take, some more things that he can do. And, it's important for all these guys to get reps, and of course, it's going to matter. And the Saints have an opportunity at the running back position, right? Abram Smith's another guy that he looked pretty good, but Ezigbo, out of the running backs today, I think he looked the best for sure. He caught a nice little wheel route with Eric Wilson kind of draped in coverage on him, ran up the sideline. So, again, lots of cool stuff from OTAs. Again, you're looking at one more session on next Thursday, and then mid-June, 14th to the 16th, you're going to have the mandatory mini camp. So again, we touched on it. Some fans are going to be there Tuesday, and some fans are going to be there Wednesday. If you haven't checked out the Saints website, Wednesdays is more for general public season ticket holders. On Tuesday, it's more of the suites and club level season ticket holders that can kind of get some of that. But other than that, let me just go through some other things that I have here. Really, I think when you look at it, it's just some guys that weren't here. And again, these are guys we aren't expecting to really be here. So Taysom Hill, first and foremost, recovering from the Lisfranc surgery. He wasn't here today. Michael Thomas, again, he's kind of recovering. Probably not going to be ready for training camp. Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, those are the guys that were in the building last week. Didn't really catch them today, but they're working on getting back into the swing of things. But other than that, you didn't have most of your secondary, right? You didn't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Marshawn Lattimore. You didn't have Bradley Roby. You didn't have P.J. Williams. No Tyrann Mathieu today. And apologize, it's loud. We're in Saints facility parking lot, so that stuff's going to happen, right? So, but other than that, again, good ebbs and flows to practice. A lot of good things that happen here. Other things to take away. Caden Ellis, I was particularly impressed because there was a pass that he went stride for stride. It was with Juwan Johnson. They tried deep right sideline, big pass that Ellis was there, blanketed coverage. Really good step for step, stride for stride. He breaks it up with his helmet. I mean, those are the things that you want to see out here, right? You want to see guys like Pete Warner jump out at you. You want to see these guys kind of make that impression early. And again, it's a world of difference when you get pads on, you start hitting and contact and all this other stuff. But this is a good sign for players to start getting to that process where they grow and mature more, because that's what you bank on, right? You want these guys to do better. You want them to kind of emerge a little bit. As far as other things, notes-wise, I even look at stuff like gunner work, right? Because you have JT Gray. You look at kind of the roster, the way it goes. You don't have Justin Hardy. You hadn't had him for a while, but last year it was more of Ty Montgomery that was doing these types of things. But this year, Quan Baker got a good bit of work here at gunner today. You have guys like Traquan Smith, Kevin White working, and you have Alontae Taylor obviously working. I mean, there's just opportunity here, and some of these guys are going to make their bread and butter on how they make this roster is going to be on special teams. And it's a position where if it's not broke, then you don't really care sometimes. But when it is, it shows up in a bad way. Look at last year with the kicker spot. That was a pain. It was a train wreck, right? And so punter, Thomas Morstead did outstanding for tons of years, but Blake Gillikin, when he came in, it's just hard not to notice a guy like that and how much work he put into things. So if you guys have questions, obviously when we do these live streams, it'll be a little bit different going forward, but you have questions or anything like that, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer questions. But, again, main takeaways from today, Jarvis Landry here in the building. Very impressive. Stood out. Hard not to miss him. Jameis Winston still looks strong, looks good. That's another thing that I would take away. And then as far as getting some of these key players back just in the building around, Andres Peets, your Landon Youngs, guys like that, Adam Troutman, that's all big. It counts. It matters just for having them in the building, just being around. So, again, we'll get one more session next Thursday. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that come up from that. But overall, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to take away. Again, check out Boot Crew. Check out all the work that Lala did today and Jack Collada. They did a lot of recording, a lot of good stuff from Dennis Allen. Talked to Alontae Taylor in the locker room. One of the things I would say on that one is I kind of asked because he put out a tweet, a couple of weeks ago, just kind of talking about the DBU room and just kind of how different it was. And obviously, when you go into situations like that where you work with veteran guys and stuff like that, you want to have them be kind of a mentor. But, one of the things that Taylor had talked about when he meant that comment is, Matthew was a guy that really wanted to show him what to do and help him out and communication and stuff like that. It's going to go a long way. So the Saints team, you might remember some years past, you might have some selfish guys, whatever you want to call it. But this is a team that's really built around this team chemistry, and they're kind of adopting it. And so that's a huge step forward. And speaking of the secondary, I didn't even miss this, but Marcus May, one of the guys not practicing last week, but he was there for walkthroughs, not doing full contact, but he's coming off an Achilles injury. That is a huge step forward. Got word, obviously, that his court hearing was scheduled for yesterday. That got pushed back into August, so we're going to have to wait more time, him and Kamara, until August. I mean, this is something that just lingers on, and we'll just see how it plays out. But, a DUI in NFL, if under the new CBA, that's going to carry a 3-game suspension, so the Saints could be without him for a few times. But we'll see how it plays out. But him just being in the lineup, being there through walkthroughs, that's huge. But you have all these normal guys like Ramczyk, McCoy, Cam Jordan, a lot of these vets that, really don't have to be here, but, obviously it's encouraged. And when we get to mandatory minicamp, that's going to be really what matters. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. As always, again, we want to thank Royal Honda for producing today's show. If you haven't hit that like button or subscribe button, please do it. We're doing some amazing work over here at Boot Crew. Only going to get bigger, only going to get better. And we appreciate your feedback and we appreciate your support. Now, again, I'm John Hendrix for Boot Crew. Thanks.